Imagine a Eurovision where everything that could go wrong goes wrong. I wanted to make a video about how not to host Eurovision. What if, instead of that, we built the most cursed possible Eurovision Song Contest out of pieces of lots of different editions? Please don't say we shouldn't do that because it's a rhetorical question. I've already done it. That's what the video is about. First things first, we have to get this out of the way. Sorry, you need to like the video, you need to subscribe to the channel, etc., etc., notifications. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You get it. Secondly, Rotterdam is exempt. We are completely exempting Rotterdam 2021 from this because, quite frankly, if you can organize Eurovision during a pandemia bilan, you don't deserve any hate. So I've broken this down into some categories. We have the pre-show preparations, so the run up to the contest. You've got the club, the EuroClub, the EuroVillage. We will explain what those are if you don't already know. We have the location of the arena itself, and we have value for money for fans. Then we have the actual show itself. So we have the opening act, the hosts, the stage, the production, the crowd. Yep, you guys are getting slandered as well. The interval, the results show, and of course, the winner. I just want to say before this video begins, I've just recorded the full thing, so I'm doing this at the end. There are some, this video is not meant to be mean. It's meant to be a playful, fun look at sometimes when things went wrong. I get that a lot of people are going to have really special memories attached to a lot of the additions in this video. That includes me. Some of the additions in this video are still some of my favorite Eurovisions of all time. There are just certain things that were funny or cursed in some way, and that's why we're talking about them. That said, there are a couple of things as well that are way too serious to joke about. Where they are mentioned in this video, please understand I am not mentioning them in a jokey way. I've tried to be very serious in the way I've addressed them. With that, let's get on with the video. Now, there's a clear winner in this category, and it's really, really cursed, and you can't even really joke about it because it's awful. Baku 2012 evicted 291 families to build the arena that they hosted Eurovision in, and they have barely used it since. There's no jokes I can tell about that, so I'm just going to move on to a couple of honourable mentions, which we can take in a much more lighthearted manner. Firstly, Turin 2022. Why were your tickets only released in April? I was so stressed. Everyone I know who was going to Eurovision in 2022, so stressed because our hotels were booked, our travel was booked, we'd taken up time off of work, off of school, and we didn't even know if we were going to get tickets. So thanks for that, Turin. The second thing was, loads of the tickets were either given away for free and the people didn't show up, or they weren't sold because even in the live shows, there were banks of empty seats in really good parts of the arena, which made zero sense to me as well. So you get an honorable mention for this, Turin. The other honorable mention is Kiev in 2017. Now, the audition itself went really well, but you could tell something was going wrong in the build-up when they had to bring in Emperor Palpatine of Eurovision himself, Krista Bjorkman, to come and fix it. They worked it out and the actual audition was great, but something was really messed up in the build-up. I will also say, on a personal note, Kiev 2017 was the first Eurovision I went to in person. It was amazing. I loved Ukraine, I loved the city, and the shows went great. So thank God they got it all sorted before we all actually arrived. And I really hope we can go back to Ukraine soon for Eurovision again. With that, let's talk about location. There's a bit of an interesting story behind why I've chosen Copenhagen 2014 for this point. For those of you that don't remember, the location, the arena that Copenhagen 2014 was hosted in was at the end of an old shipyard in Copenhagen's docks. That would be fine, except what this meant was people came from the city centre really early because it took ages to get there. When they arrived, there was nothing to do except buy merch and go to the drink stands. What this meant was, by the time the show started in Copenhagen, the entire crowd was absolutely battered. They were rowdy that year, and there was a reason for it. They were all welly. They were just all drunk. And who can blame them? They were stood at the end of a dockyard with nothing else to do. Congratulations, Denmark, firstly, for winning the Drunkest Crowd Award. And I would argue, and some people could argue, that this is actually a blessed thing, not a cursed thing, so I guess we can call it blessed, but it's not a good idea, in my opinion, to set up your Eurovision in such a way that all the crowd gets really, really drunk because they have nothing else to do. Recipe for disaster. You got away with it this time, Copenhagen, but it could have been much worse, and you're still getting the worst location award for this. Now, let's move on to the next section. Okay, so the EuroVillage. For those of you who don't know, the EuroVillage happens in each host city. It's a sort of fenced off area where they have concerts and there's screenings of the shows and there's like stalls and stuff like this. It's a really, really nice atmosphere. It's full of fans and a really great place to go. So if you do go to Eurovision, I really recommend going to the Village. That said, the Turin 2022 Village was a disaster. Firstly, there was nothing to do in the Village. There were hardly any food and drink stalls, and what was there was so expensive. Like, you're paying 10, 12, 14 euros for a sandwich? I don't think so. Second problem, what happens if you have a EuroVillage on grass and then it rains a lot? Yeah, exactly. The whole place was a swamp for half of the week. Final problem, and this one is probably the worst, the way they administered the Village on the night of the final was a real mess. There was no ticketing system or anything, so thousands of people showed up. They were queuing for hours. A lot of people couldn't get in. It was a really dangerous situation that emerged outside where people were pushing and shoving. When you actually got in, they had run out of water before the show had even started. There was an hour-long queue if you wanted to go to the toilet or get a beer, and the whole thing just went downhill from there. A lot of fans ended up simply going somewhere else. You know, we hosted people in our Airbnb, and there were all sorts of situations like that emerged. And the sad thing is, that park was really nice, and it would have been such a nice location if they'd just put the Village somewhere else. Now, I don't know how feasible that would have been, but it's a shame because it really put a dampener on that part of the experience. With that in mind, and staying firmly in Turin, let's talk about EuroClub. So the EuroClub is kind of a newer phenomenon. It's only in recent years that it's been open to everyone instead of just artists and accredited press and a small number of accredited fans. But Turin managed to really mess this one up as well. So apparently, supposedly, there were 10 EuroClub venues across the city, except these included malls, coffee shops, restaurants, i.e. places that are not clubs. In addition to this, the entry price for the EuroClub was €17.50. Now, luckily, if you were accredited press, that was reduced. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Nobody got accredited in 2022, so that didn't help. Now, what all of this meant is that the fans actually kind of created their own EuroClub. So we all went to this pub called The Huntsman in central Turin. It was open all night, played Eurovision songs the whole night. If you want them to play That's Rich 3 times in an hour, they'll do it. So thank you, Huntsman. You are all in our hearts. Turin, come on, guys. 4 categories, 3 mentions. You can do better than this. Luckily, you're not winning the next one. Now, the next category is value for money for fans. And truth be told, I've been trying to avoid talking about Tel Aviv 2019 in this video for obvious reasons. This is the only time it'll be mentioned. If you don't want to talk about this, I understand. Just skip forward to the next section of the video. In the meantime, there is a donation link in the description for Medical Aid for Palestinians, a charity which is providing medical care to people who need it in Gaza right now. With that, value for money, the reason that I have to talk about Tel Aviv is because the tickets were extortionate, like insane levels compared to every other year in history. Now, usually at Eurovision, there are some cheap tickets. I'm talking tickets to family shows, tickets to jury shows, something that everyone can afford. In 2017, the lowest ticket price was €8. In 2018, it was €5. In 2019, yeah, no. In 2019, the cheapest ticket to any show was €183. 183! Who thought that was a good idea? It is a complete middle finger to people who aren't going to be able to afford to go to those higher price shows. And the incredible thing is, still the least cursed thing about that edition. Let's move swiftly on. I don't really feel comfortable talking about this, and to be honest, you, the viewer, probably don't feel comfortable hearing about it either, so we should just move on to the next category. Now, this video is turning into a bit of a demonetization speed run because now I'm going to talk about Russia. Opening act, Moscow 2009. Now, for those of you who remember this isn't even the most cursed act in the show, and we will come back to the other one later. Dima Bilan comes down out of the sky, dramatically throws off his coat, and it gets caught on the rigging. And then he spins around and tries to jiggle it off, and it doesn't come off. So a group of dancers have to run on stage and rip it off for him before resuming their, usual place, walking alongside him, looking very, very important. So after this, Dima Bilan gets on a treadmill to give the simulation that he's running towards the stage, except there's people standing behind it, which completely shatters the illusion. He runs through a few fake paper walls, just in case the effect didn't land if he did it once. He does it 3 times, and then while singing his terrible song from 2008, he runs through them a bunch more times in slow-mo. So just in case you missed it the first few times. I think the thing that really hammers this one home and makes it especially cursed is that as he was performing this open act, the organizers of Moscow Pride were being arrested for going ahead with the march without a permit. So yeah, not good. For the host of the contest, I've gone for Toto Cutugno, who hosted the contest in 1991. And if you look back here, you'll see that he had a little bit of trouble remembering which countries were which during the voting.
Suède, 12 points.
Grèce, 12 points. No.
Luxembourg,
Tranquilo.
1 point.
Portugal.
Oh, Luxembourg, 1.
Or straight up arguing with the supervisor of the contest. Maybe these two things are linked, maybe they're not. That supervisor quit after this year. That was his last year. He was like, I've seen enough. Now, I think we should point out that Toto Cutugno was not a TV host by profession. He was a musician, he was a winner from the previous year, and he is, of course, a Eurovision legend. But I really recommend you go back and watch this full contest in 1991, because some of these interactions and some of the mistakes he's making really are sweet and really are fun to watch. So this adds a little bit of light to our otherwise extremely cursed show, with poor Toto just being a little bit confused when revealing his points. But he's dearly missed by all of us. He remains a Eurovision legend to this day, and we love you, Toto. So imagine you've built this beautiful Eurovision stage. You're so proud of it that you've briefed to the press about its centerpiece, a kinetic sun with LED screens on one side and lights on the other. Artists will be able to have this thing turn around and move during their performances. And then it doesn't work. The stage didn't work. They only worked it out a couple of weeks before the show. The Turin 2022 stage literally broke, and it didn't just break. The fact that they had briefed to the press how proud they were of this sun, and then it just sits there stationary because it can't move fast enough between performances, is totally insane. For context, at Eurovision, you have about 50 seconds to get the stuff you need for your performance on stage and off again at the end. This is so the show can proceed smoothly. It was not going to be possible in that time for the sun to turn. If one act was using the LED screen side and the next act were using the side with the lights, that would have been impossible. It would have taken way longer. And as we all know, it's only acceptable for a stage transition to take 3 minutes or longer if it's Sweden doing it. Now, delegations were given 3 days. They were told 3 days before rehearsals started that the sun was in fact going to stay stationary. It was going to stay on the lights side, not the LED screen side, for the entire show. 3 days before! And the situation was so bad that one fan site referred to it as a black rainbow of death. Given the usual Eurovision, oh, we're happy, we're celebrating music. Black rainbow of death? Probably not the vibe that they were going for. I feel especially sorry, I should say this as well. The stage was filthy, like it was really, really dirty. I feel especially sorry for Cornelia Jacobs, who had to walk on it barefoot during her act, but more on her in a minute. So unfortunately, production has to go to Turin as well. Here is Cornelia Jacobs at Melodifestivalen. Now here is Cornelia Jacobs in Turin. Notice any difference? Yeah, it's a hell of a lot worse. Luckily, she's a great performer that can carry through the performance even when people around her are failing her, because seriously, it looks so much worse at the actual contest. The production value is so much lower, and this is only the start of the problems they face. They cut to a random shot of a chair during the grand final. They didn't show Ireland's title card during the semi-final. They had a camera which was broken for the entire show, and because of that, a bunch of shots were wrong in a bunch of performances. It's shoddy stuff like this that just devalues the final quality of the product ever so slightly. We should also throw in a mention for the postcards here, because the weird shots of the artists projected onto landmarks in Italy was very much like it's 2007 and I've just got Photoshop for the first time. I get that COVID affected this, but given that the 2021 postcards were better, I feel like Turin could have really stepped up their game here. Okay, now I'm calling out you guys because we're doing worst crowd. We're going to go with 2006 for this one because I don't know what they put in the water in Greece during Eurovision in 2006. That crowd was angry. I get that Sylvia Knight's humour maybe wasn't to everyone's taste. Did she go a bit far? Probably. But this reaction seemed a little bit much to me. Shout out to the one guy, by the way. At the end, you can see there is one guy who absolutely loves it and is like clapping away. He's giving a standing ovation all by himself. It is hilarious. Every time I see that, it cracks me up. The same goes for We Are the Winners from Lithuania, who also got really heavily booed. I get that maybe it was a little presumptuous, maybe the song was a little beggy, but like, it was a bit much to boo them like that. It was just a silly song, and it had that bald guy doing his really fun dance, and that made me laugh. That is like one of my earliest Eurovision memories. So come on, guys, like lighten up a bit. Anyway, they booed them every time they got points. They booed them during the performance, but they still came sixth. So well done to them a bit, I guess. It's kind of funny to me that this is still Lithuania's best ever result. Justice for the Roop. So, interval act. We're going back to 2009 again, Moscow. It's the first semi-final, and what more tasteless way than to have your interval act the year after you've invaded another participating country to be your army's choir. Like, come on, guys. That's a bit on the nose. And that was the least tasteless thing about the performance because it included a fighter jet and a tank with Tattoo, everyone's least favourite fake lesbians, singing in front of them. Like, oh my god, how on earth was this allowed even in 2009? I get that maybe we've been jaded by what has happened since then, but this is completely insane. Like, I watch this now and it just feels like an insane fever dream given that everything that has happened since and everything that was happening at the time. I remember I was a kid when 2009 was on. I remember watching it at the time and not understanding, but when this kind of went viral on Eurovision Twitter a couple of months ago, I remember seeing it again and being like, oh god, no. So yeah, this is no competition. Easy win for Moscow on this one. What a absolute horrific disaster. Terrible. We should never speak of it again. Okay, so maybe a potentially controversial choice for the next one. Most cursed results show any year before 2003. And let me explain why. Before 2003, we got the double bonus of not having the countries in order, so you couldn't tell who was winning at any given time. You couldn't tell where your countries were in the scoreboard without far too much brain power that smooth-brained idiots like me simply don't have. Secondly, every single country read out every single point from 1 to 12. And looking back now, it's so slow. I guess we're spoiled with the new system, which sort of creates more drama. And I love that because I am an absolute sucker for drama.
It's all the drama, Mick. I just love it.
That said, this old system, while it sort of gives me the nostalgia from when I was a kid, it was way too slow. And the fact that the countries weren't in order, this was the worst iteration of it. Shout out though to some of the highlights from the voting of this era, such as that girl who screamed she couldn't see anything. You know, you are an icon that we still remember to this day. Europe loves you. Finally, for our cursed show, we need a cursed winner. And for me, it's an easy choice. It is the Azerbaijan 2011 Ellen Nicky Running Scared. How did this song win Eurovision? Like, I'm sorry, I'm about to go on a massive rant. How did this song win Eurovision? I get that 2011 was a weak year, but this is like a really mid ballad, a nothing burger, as I've said before, that would struggle to qualify in most editions, in my opinion. Can you imagine? I mean, I was a kid in 2011, and I remember this vividly. The meltdown that would have happened on the timeline if Eurovision Twitter was a big thing in 2011, everyone would have been standing Eric Sada. Everyone would have been furious. In fact, there are still some people on my timeline who are furious about this. I know I can't get over anything either. It is in our nature. There are a lot of conspiracy theories about this win as well. And to be honest, they're kind of justified. I mean, Azerbaijan was literally caught trying to bribe both juries and televoters in the years following. After they got caught, something mysteriously happened to their results and they suddenly got a lot worse. Funny that. Germany 2011, with its winner Azerbaijan, gets the questionable prize of most cursed winner. Well done, I guess. So there we have it. Congratulations to Turin. You guys really outdid yourselves. The next video will be in 2 weeks' time. I promise it will be the Sweden video. I know I said it was going to be this one, but like time got away from me. I didn't have time to write the script. Sorry. We will have a special guest. You'll get to hear me rant about how much I love Statements by Loreen. It's going to be great. So just subscribe, make sure you're here in 2 weeks. In the meantime, I probably missed a whole bunch of stuff. Cursed things, bad things, funny things, whatever they are, please comment them. I really want to hear them because I love reading the comments. I love seeing all of you down there starting a conversation, so please do. In the meantime, it's time for me to sign out for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the insane support on the first 2 videos, and see you around. It's in our nature. Oh, I f***ed it up at the end.